hope Christmas Kitty brings you for Christmas this Christmas?
Some cozy sweats.
That's too big. She's just a kitty.
Oh, a little cup of coffee.
How's a cat going to bring a cup of coffee? She could bring you cozy socks.
Okay, cozy socks.
Yeah.
To drink a cup of coffee and to wear with my cozy sweats.
Sure. The Christmas kitty can only bring little things in her mouth.
True.
She might bring you a mouse.
No thanks.
You don't know. It depends if you were good or bad or what she feels like.
What are you going to get from Christmas Kitty?
I asked for a roll of hockey tape.
Oh.
For my stick.
Nice.
You should tell people about Christmas Kitty because I think a lot of our listeners are in Canada and the US and they don't follow Christmas Kitty nearly as much.
Yeah, I like Christmas Kitty.
All right, there you go. There's your explanation on the Christmas Kitty. Marisol, the Christmas
Kitty.
We'll just leave that there, I guess. And let's start our episode. Welcome to a very festive holiday edition of I Love This, You Should Too. My name is Indy, the big Christmas cat, Randhawa. Well, that's a thing too, the Yule Katter and the Icelandic Christmas cat.
Oh.
Which is different than Christmas Kitty. Christmas cat is like the house size.
Like a giant cat.
Yeah, and he'll gobble you up if you're wearing like shitty clothes.
You have to wear new clothes.
Yeah.
On Christmas Eve?
I don't know.
Day.
I don't know. I can't keep all of my Christmas cats straight.
I
believe in
sure
the Christmas
get
Kitty.
Eaten by a giant cat.
Well, I guess it depends on what you're more of a Santa person, though.
I am.
I'm more of a Christmas Kitty and Santa.
I mean, Santa's here with us in the podcast studio.
In my heart.
And in your heart.
Oh, on the desk. Well, that's just a toy.
Oh, wait. That's not real Santa?
That's not.
Oh.
And with me is my lovely co-host, Samantha. That's not real Santa Randhawa.
That's me. I know it's not real Santa. That's our Christmas tree topper.
Glad we sorted all this out.
So, Indy, we're here to talk about a very important movie.
Is that the right word?
Very movie.
I don't know.
A movie.
Sure. Yeah, I'll give it to you.
It's called Lights, Camera, Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
It is a 2022 Hallmark Channel original movie. I want to know, did you love it?
Clearly, my answer to that
I already know what your answer is.
going to be no.
Yeah.
Did you even love this?
No, I liked it. It was one of the better ones.
So I'm going to say two things, and they are not mutually exclusive. Mm-hmm. I don't think this was an especially good movie. Mm-hmm. In the first 30 seconds, I could give you all the beats of where the story was going.
Yeah.
Also, I think this is the best Hallmark Christmas movie I've ever seen.
The best?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
I've seen fewer than 10.
Yeah.
Actually, it might be more than 10 now that I think about it. I just don't remember them all because
we're not
so
always
generic.
Paying attention to them.
No,
like, a
because
lot
the
of
more
times
you pay attention,
we'll
the worse they are.
Like turn it on while we're doing something and then
wrapping Christmas presents, putting up a tree,
baking cookies. I kind of agree with you that this was one of the better ones.
I think the best because there was nothing in this movie that made me angry.
Okay.
Because I always talk when we're watching the Christmas movies and you're like, no, it doesn't have to be good. It's just like a light and you don't have to think. And I say, yes, that's fair. But it doesn't need to be actively bad. It doesn't need to buy into tropes that don't help its own cause. Yeah. It doesn't need to do all these extra things. And they need to make simple choices to help themselves out, which they do not. This movie, I don't think they did anything wrong.
No.
And that's why it's the best one. There's nothing really objectionable in this movie. Mm-hmm. The characters are pretty likable. The acting is pretty good. The directing is fine. Yeah. It's a nice Christmas watch. If you are the type of person who says like, yeah, I just want something nice and easy to watch, this is the one.
This is, and it's not offensive. It's not trying too hard. It's just a classic Christmas time.
It's just the Hallmark formula, but done all right.
Yeah.
I don't understand how they make so many and then so many of them are terrible.
Yeah.
But I guess there's so many that we haven't seen. So maybe this is more average than I realize, but we've just watched so many that make me actively angry.
Yeah.
This was nice.
I do think some of them, they go too big with the characters. Mm-hmm. And then it's too zany for the lack of plot that they then put into the movie.
It's not even that it's too big, because a lot of those ones I like because they're making a choice. It's not just middle of the road. I think the problem often is that they are so middle of the road that they're not making any choices in any direction. So much so that they're not even doing the work. They're not having the meet cute. They're not having them have a disagreement and fall apart and then learn what they love in each other and bring it back together. They just go through the motions, and they trust that you've seen enough Hallmark movies that you're like, yes, we've earned this, not in this movie, but in culture. We don't need to do the work of making these characters feel that way. You already feel that way. We just play the music and show you them kiss, and you do the work in your own mind. This movie does the work. It's not like going into depth of like, here's the giant backstory of why they're like that. Although it does a little
bit.
It does the work in having these characters, like having your jerk guy be kind of a jerk, but not so much so that he's irredeemable. So often they're just such trash, but then we have to love them at the end. But you just had to think, like, remember what he did in the first act? That's kind of unforgivable if it was real life. This guy's just a little full of himself.
Yeah.
And then we learn why, and we actually get some psychology behind it. And he comes to those realizations himself, and it's redeeming, and I believe it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a good movie. It's fine.
It was a good movie. Yeah, I agree. And I think that the through line and the Hallmark checklist, you hit all the boxes without it feeling too tired.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I feel like when you're doing 12 movies a year of the same 8 checkboxes, say that you have to hit all of those in the script, and it's really quickly, it would be really easy to quickly like hit the same exact movie over and over again, and to have like your viewer go, well, I just watched the last one last night and it's exactly the same as the one tonight, except for that instead of Santa, it's a snowman.
And that they have so many characters that are just unlikable, which is always very strange to me. Like, why you would make one of your leads just a jerk?
Yeah,
because it's funny conflict, I guess.
Yeah, both of these leads I believed were people.
Yeah.
Like, and that they would maybe get together if this wasn't like a Hallmark movie. Like, I would believe that they would get together.
So let's go through the movie. And we do spoilers on this. We might get a different audience than we normally do. We usually do like kind of more analysis, but I feel like there's not too much to analyze in this. Being the deepest Hallmark movie is still like, it's a pretty superficial movie for the most part, but there was some good stuff in here.
Yeah. So this movie is about Kerry Devine of small town 12 Oaks, California. Colorado, sorry. Who is struggling financially while owning a clothing boutique called Retrofit Exchange.
It's a bad name.
It is a very bad name. And you can tell that, I don't know, like, I feel like I've ordered a lot of signs in my job. And you can tell that whoever ordered the sign for the storefront didn't check the measurements and think about how small it was going to look, because it is like a sign that you would have like on a table at like a fair, not up on a like marquee for a store.
They got a low budget there. They got to stay on it.
They don't have a low budget.
Hallmark?
Don't they?
Sure.
Really?
Well, I guess, what are you considering a low budget? For a feature-length film, yes, it is a very low budget.
I guess I was just thinking for like a Christmas movie.
If you're looking at just made-for-TV movies, sure, it's probably higher than some of those. But for a feature film, they're quite low budget.
Interesting. I couldn't find any information on how much this movie cost to make. So
no, they don't let you know. But I know people who work making Hallmark movies, so I get some insight to it. Where was this shot? Was this shot here? Vancouver or something?
That's the thing I don't... Like, it's so hard to find information on these movies.
Netflix is like that as well. They like to keep it really wrapped up.
Like, I found the IMDb page, which has about 4 things on it other than, like, the cast list. There's the Hallmark movie page, like, for, like, Hallmark movies. And then there is a fandom. Do you know like the fandom.com sites that TV shows will have? It's like I think they call it like a wiki, but lots of things like ER has a fandom wiki.
Sure.
There's a Christmas specials.fandom.com is like one of the pages, and it'll have links to who these people are, and then you can like find them and what movies they're in. But this also has so little information on it, so I have no idea a lot of information that we would normally have about a movie. I have no idea. It's very strange.
So in the 20 seconds when you were just talking, I got into some back channels. This was filmed in Vancouver, and most likely it was filmed in 20 to 25 days, and most likely it had a budget around or under $3 million.
Yeah.
They're efficient though. They'll line up their movies and they recycle things as far as cast and crew
and sets
and everything, and that's fast.
It is fast.
And that explains why a lot of them are quite terrible.
So
but
rushed.
a lot of them are terrible in the script, which, I don't know, that seems unforgivable to me when they're just, the choice is there and they just choose to make it worse. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about this one, which is actually kind of good.
Yes, we liked this one.
So we start out, and it is the premiere of a movie that's debuting on like a streaming subscription called Turbo Plus.
Dazzle
Plus. But then they're still having a like film festival style Q&A.
Which is so weird, because I'm pretty sure nothing has a streaming service release and also gets a Q&A and a live premiere.
I thought they would just say Hallmark. They should have been making a Hallmark movie.
Yeah.
What they really should have done, and I think I'm trying to do this in the real world, is they should have made both movies.
Yeah.
That Santa movie that is the joke movie.
Yeah.
They should have shot that.
Yeah. They should have released it
and then
as its own movie.
Because they're doing them in 3-week turnarounds, do them back to back. Some shots can work in both movies. And then have this that's kind of about that. That's built-in marketing. I think that's just a good idea.
You're probably already shooting half the Santa movie while shooting the first movie
That's
anyway.
what I'm saying.
So like half your shots are done. You need another like week and a half maybe.
Yeah.
Based on how fast they do these to like round it out and add the little scenes that you don't see them shoot.
I'm trying to shoot a mockumentary making of a movie where terrible stuff happens on the set and the movie that they're actually shooting as well. And I think shooting them together, like it would be more work, of course, but it's not twice as much work. It's not the work of making 2 movies.
Right.
It's like 1.5 movies.
Yeah.
So you get free half movie.
Exactly.
Hallmark. You should have done that on this one.
Get on it. Yes, because if you're shooting a movie, like you're already shooting a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're having this panel, and they're like, you know who we need up here? The costume designer. And then she just tells a half-hour story.
Yeah. That was so weird that they had an extra chair for her. And also, it seemed like she was never planning on going up there. So she goes up and she starts telling basically what turns into the movie, the story of the movie. And we get a interesting exchange between Brad, the star, and the mayor.
Oh, yeah, the mayor. The mayor was not the strongest actor.
Also, just not the strongest part. Like, we could have done without it.
Yeah. He should have been funny and wacky.
Yeah. Give him a little bit more. Give him, like, 10% more part. And just make him, like, zany.
But I did enjoy, or maybe not enjoy, I keep looking at this movie because if I just look at it did I like this movie and was it very good? No, not really. But that's not, I can only talk about that for so much. I'm like, yeah, it's fine. The end. What I did appreciate was how economical the introduction of Brad Baxter was. Like he comes on and he's always calling himself the King of Christmas. Yeah. And just in that one exchange where they take the picture and he's like, oh no, that's not good. Yeah. But you look great. And he's still like trying to charm. So he's not charming. An over the top, like I'm a selfish asshole. Yeah. But you're like, no, but he's kind of a selfish asshole. But in a way that there can be redemption for him. And we do get that. So I loved that little introduction. Or later on, he said like, oh, it's me. Need a hint? And he like smiles and winks. He's so full of himself, and it's to a funny extent rather than an infuriating extent like a lot of the other movies would do.
Because I feel like if this was a lot of the other movies, and I feel like we're just shitting on the rest of Christmas movies, but...
Well, this style of one, they're bad. They are so bad. And that's what I appreciate about this movie. Not being great, but just like put in a little more effort. It doesn't require that much more to give me not a shitty movie.
Yeah. So in the other movies, you'd get Brad with like 2 frazzled PAs running around behind him at all times. Like,
and you'd be berating them.
Yeah.
And then we still have to like him because he's not terrible. He's just self-conscious.
Yes. So I like that he's mostly on his own throughout the movie. Like he doesn't have a bunch of people like fawning over him and like making sure every need is met and anticipated. And I liked that we got just a guy who's really full of himself, but like he's just a guy.
What I liked about him is his arrogance was clearly an attempt at self-preservation. Like we learn that he wanted to be this kind of actor. Well, first he didn't even want to be an actor, but then he wanted to be this one type, and he was scared and he feels guilty and like cowardly for not taking those risks. And now he's just playing it safe, and he's more playing this part of being arrogant rather than actually feeling that. He's a guy who's trying to play the part of what a movie star is. And what he's watched these Hallmark movies, like, okay, that's what I should be. That's what I am. But he's like a good enough guy underneath that he's not fully committed to it. And that's not the most subtle thing, but for a Hallmark movie, it's incredibly subtle and complex. And I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. They gave him some like actual human emotions.
Yeah.
Which Hallmark tends to not do. There tend to be like crazy people.
And we get introduced to our female lead when they buy out her entire store. What's her name again?
Kerry.
Yeah,
this whole scene is very like puzzling from both a like movie standpoint and then also like just like a business standpoint.
Sure.
Like he walks in, and I assume that as a producer, maybe he's never had to become a costumer, and that's fair because he's a producer. But I also don't think that a producer would walk in with his credit card and buy absolutely everything sight unseen out of a store.
No. And when I was watching the first part of this movie, I was looking at things like, why do they have this big panel for a Dazzle Plus release? How can he just go buy a store like that? And you get caught up in those things because most of these movies are full with so many of those, and it's often more fun to look at how ridiculous they are than how good they are. Yeah. But in this case, already by this point, which is quite early in the movie, when he comes and buys the whole store, I looked at it and was like, you know what? Fine. Yeah. Because it wasn't an instance where he comes in and he's wearing a scarf and he throws it over his shoulder and he's like, this, I'll take it. Let's go. And berates her or belittles her, which is usually what you'd get. He's a nice guy trying to do his best.
He's frazzled.
These types of movies, especially if your goal is to have a nice time, a calming time, something like you always say that you don't have to think about. Yeah. Why would you put so much unnecessary conflict in it? And that's what gets me about a lot of these ones is the conflict. It comes from nowhere. It's very forced and it's just to make you uncomfortable. And then when it works out, you're like, hey, look, everything worked out. Yeah. But it doesn't come from anything. Here, the conflict isn't at places like that. Like, hey, I'll buy your whole store. And she's like, oh, okay, that actually will be very helpful.
Yes, that's a great thing to do.
And they both benefit from that. The conflict actually comes from these characters and their pasts more than anything.
And their actual problems.
Yes.
Like real world problems.
It's not manufactured conflict. No. And I think the single biggest thing that bothers me about romantic comedies as a whole, 95% of them will have that third act forced conflict. Usually it's just a misunderstanding that if you go like, oh, actually, I didn't say that. I said this. That would fix everything. Yeah. But we have to have that point where they hate each other for no reason at all. And it's very forced and it's ultimately unnecessary. Yeah. Because it doesn't make the movie better. I think people think that there are stakes then, because now they hate each other, now they love each other. Look, that's growth, that's an arc, and it's not. It's manufactured and unnecessary. So that's why in this movie, it sounds like I'm just praising this movie, and I love it.
Indy loves this
but
movie,
it's just such a good example of how I always say you could do the smallest things to make this movie fine. This movie does all those small things.
Yeah.
And so when he comes out and buys the whole store, sure.
Yeah.
There are no costumers you can find, and the small town lady who has aspirations of being a designer gets her chance. Great. You know what? I'm on board, and I want her to get her chance.
And that's like
I like her.
Christmas Miracle kind of feeling thing.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a situation where you're like, oh, it's Christmas Miracle.
Just give me characters to root for, and I will.
Yeah. And then you are rooting for her. And you get to see her like pay her rent and like do actual real world things. It's not like something really far-fetched that nobody's ever actually dealt with.
I also really enjoyed that B story with the producer and the director.
Me
How they were divorced.
Yes.
And that was like funny at the beginning because they always had to speak through the one person, but they were never terrible and malicious and like poisoning each other's coffees or things like that. They were just petty jerks a little bit.
Yeah. And I think after a relationship and you're married and everything and you break up, you're like, yeah, you're going to be a little petty, I think. And also, you could see that they were getting closer throughout the movie to talking. And then when they finally do kind of break through and call a ceasefire, I think she called it, you like believe it. It's not just like all of a sudden one day they decided that they're back in love again.
Yeah, and the way they show the audience this is so easy. It's not that they went and really got into the relationship and had them rekindle it with memories of the past. Although there's a little bit of that. All they do is they first only speak through the assistant, then it's like one sentence to each other, and then eventually they're having conversations. And that's how they show that they're learning to, they eventually do fall in love again. I don't know if that's...
But I mean, like, it's...
For one of
a
these.
Christmas movie, it's very, very subtle in the way that they get them back together.
It's just easy and economical. There's nothing wrong with it, is the biggest thing. If this were an Oscar bait drama and that's how they did it, I'd be like, oh, that's lazy. But for this movie, it works.
It's a great
Doesn't hit you
second
over the
plot.
head.
It's,
And you know what? I really wanted them to get back together.
Me too.
Right at the beginning, I was like, oh, they're getting back together. And as soon as I get over my, like, calling it, I got invested. And it's like, no, I want them to get back together.
Yeah.
I liked him. I liked the producer. I thought he was a good guy.
I thought they were both really great characters. Just like,
I didn't get enough of her.
No, she didn't talk much. Yeah. But I did find that even if they hadn't have been husband and wife, or like formerly husband and wife, I think I would have just liked them just because they're like fun. It was good. And we also get the co-star of the movie, Mariah, who falls in love with Santa Claus in the movie. And I liked her because she was kind of just like working in the background for everybody.
Yes, she wasn't there to sabotage the relationship.
Yes.
Like, don't fall in love with her. I'm going to win you. There was none of that. No. She's just a good friend. And you know what she was? She was an actor doing her job on set. It's
and she like
the simplest things.
Liked her coworkers.
Yeah.
She's just nice. She's like, I think you guys would get together.
If you want to make a nice Christmas movie, put nice people in it.
Yeah. And everybody in this was like genuinely nice. So that was nice to see.
So nice.
So nice. What did you think of the redesigned Santa suit?
I don't have a strong opinion on it as like the question you asked. Like because it's a movie within a movie, and sometimes I have a hard time criticizing that internal movie as I would a movie itself, because it is a plot point of this movie. So any choice in that fictitious movie, whether it is good nor bad, does not make it good nor bad, because it's a creation of a fictional character.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You know what? I probably didn't like it. If I was watching a movie and that's what it was, and he's like, oh, I'm Santa, and he came out like that, I would say, like, no, this is dumb. They're just trying to make a handsome Santa. Stop trying to make everything sexy. Some things can be not sexy and still be fine.
But that's what Dazzle Plus wanted.
That is what Dazzle Plus wanted. Oh, no, but they didn't. They wanted it more traditional, and they changed it.
Yeah.
And then they were going to tell Dazzle to like just suck it up and deal with it.
And then Dazzle was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. We assume.
Yeah, we assume.
I'm just tired of everything having to be sexy.
Yeah.
So I really dislike handsome Santa. If you are a fat, bearded actor, you only have so many jobs.
True.
You don't have many. And handsome guys are taking that too?
Yeah.
That's bullshit.
Justice for Santa Claus actors.
Yeah, absolutely. Now even like all the voice actors have to be like jacked Marvel guys now.
Yeah.
Like, oh, who's going to play Mario, a cartoon plumber? Oh, a jacked Marvel actor. Why? Why does he need the abs to do that?
Yeah.
But what I was saying before...
Projection.
I'm just talking about everything but the movie.
We're all over the place.
But what I was saying is I thought it was fun that this was her contributing to the movie, and it's a part of her arc growing from a retail shop owner, and she thought she knew what she wanted in the past but gave it up to be a designer, and now she's finding this third path which turns out to be what she wanted even if she didn't know it. And that's a more subtle, although nothing's really subtle in it, but that's a more complex arc than a lot of these will get. And I enjoyed that part. I still don't like handsome Santa as a thing. Yeah. But what did you think of the suit itself? I'm sure you have stronger ideas on that.
I liked it. I feel like, and because they're like supposed to be making like a Hallmark style movie, I do feel like at a certain point in this season when everybody's releasing 12 Santa movies and there's like 100 new Santa movies that come out, maybe 100's a bit of an overestimation, but like you get so many and the market's so saturated for a couple months. Having something like the revamped Santa suit, the like new age, new stylish one, I think that I liked that little addition because it made it feel different. Other than him in a fat suit with skinny legs.
Right. Like, would I wear that suit to a Christmas party? Sure.
Yeah.
I still don't want a handsome Santa. I think if you're changing up your Santas, you go the other way and make it more like a witchy woodsman.
Yeah.
I kind of like that. Is he creepy? That kind of Santa. I like all the Santas from the scary Santa to the Coke Santa. That's my spectrum of Santa.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
I don't like sexy Santas.
No. Santa shouldn't be sexy.
No, he shouldn't.
Yeah, he's supposed to have a tummy like a bowl full of jelly. Is that what it was?
Belly like a bowl full of jelly. Absolutely.
Yeah. Tummy.
Tummy like a bowl full of nothing.
Gummies.
Gum. There you go. Well done. So then we have our two leads slowly kind of falling in love.
Yeah.
It seems like he was interested in her before she was in him.
Yeah. And I like the way that they played that because she is just got a new job. One that she's never had before. She's trying to like navigate how movie sets work and it's all very chaotic. So it does kind of make sense that he would be the one who's like more interested in her at first. Like that made sense to me.
I appreciated that she had what a normal person's reaction should be to a guy who's very full of himself and is kind of presumptuous. And she's very skeptical of him for quite a while. While so many times you have someone being so much worse than him, and then the love interest just flips because the person shows interest.
Right. And she's like, ah.
Yeah, this didn't have that. She took her time. And he had to win her over. But he doesn't go out of his way to win her over in the way you would often see of him making usually too forward and too aggressive like romantic gestures. Yes. But rather, I think when he was kind of inviting himself over for dinner, I think it's 50% that he's interested in her and 50% that he's lonely. Yeah. And that came through. And then once he's kind of away from the set, the actual, what's his name? Peter?
Brad.
That's not close.
No,
the actual Brad, the King of Christmas, that starts coming through. And I appreciated that when he was over at, she lives with her mother, right?
Yes.
Over at their house, he doesn't tell this story of like, oh, my parents were killed on Christmas and that's why. And then out of trauma, she loves him, because that's a thing too, where someone's an asshole, but then you're like, oh, you're an asshole but wounded?
Yeah.
I can fix you.
Sexy.
Yeah, they're into that.
Yeah.
And what she learns is like, oh, he's just kind of like a nice, normal guy.
Yeah, when
He's
he
pretty regular.
drops the facade of it.
Yes.
And then she kind of becomes like a safe place for him to be able to drop the facade. And I think that's why he's so into her by the end of the movie.
Yeah, I think she provides that for him. And also he sees in her a glimpse of who he used to be. I think. And by not making him as big of a douchebag at the beginning, he's never so terrible that he's irredeemable. And this turn, and it is a bit of a turn.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem so drastic. And rather than it seeming like his character changes or like he found love and now he's not a terrible person, we realize that he was playing up those other aspects of himself.
Yeah.
And she's allowing him to be who he truly is. And so many like actual really good romantic movies, that's a trope that comes back a lot in what I think are more successful romantic stories of they find their love with the person who allows them to be their most authentic self.
Yeah.
And I think that's something going on here.
Yeah. Yeah. And he does strike me at the beginning of the movie that he's not a person who ever like relaxes.
No, he's always
He's
on.
always on. And
He's
I
like
think
doing the movie star thing all the time.
playing the piano and eating chicken and like just sitting at the kitchen table. Like I think that you can see him relax and it's believable.
I think when he talks about his parents and how much he loves them, I think that was the turn in her.
Yes.
To be like, oh, there's something
Yeah, he's like
to
a
him.
real
We have
person.
something in common because she has again, how often do you see two love interests in a romantic comedy, both of which have good relationships with their
Healthy
parents?
relationships with parents. Like only one dead parent. Usually one of them's an orphan. That's the thing.
More than 50% of people in movies are orphans.
Yeah, so that's like a very commonly used plot point, I guess. And so yeah, you get to see two people who have like healthy parental relationships, and that's nice. That's nice for everybody.
And then when you get to them having their romantic dinner on set, I appreciated, I don't think they're really breaking the fourth wall or doing any sort of self-referential thing that much, because it has the opportunity to poke fun at the movies it is also a part of.
Yeah.
A lot more. And I wish they would do that, but I get why they're not. Hallmark is very, like in a Disney way, they take themselves
very seriously.
Although, do they? Because they will have movies so intentionally bad that it's poking fun of it, but they won't let this movie poke fun at those things.
Yeah, I don't think they reference themselves.
I wish they would in this. But what I did like is they subtly do that when they're having dinner on set, because then they can have the artifice of a regular Hallmark movie and the lighting changes dramatically, music just starts, and all of those things would just be a part of other movies. But here, you're like, they're on a set of a movie and showing how artificial this is.
Yeah, and someone's probably testing stuff for tomorrow. Like,
well, they even have the guy dropping the snow. Yeah. Right there, you can see the artifice. It's drawing attention to it. And I thought that was clever and kind of funny. And then also, it was a decent romantic scene.
It was. And it was a cool date that isn't like, I bought you a restaurant. Like sometimes the grand gesture in these movies is like way too much.
It seemed like a good date that I've actually been on.
Yeah, and
it didn't
one
seem
that
like something ridiculous.
Yeah, one that you would believe that like an actor in a movie would be able to pull off.
Yes.
Be like, hey, I know you're gonna be testing lighting, but like, do you mind if we have dinner on the set?
Yeah.
Yeah, go for it. Like, that's something that I can imagine actually happening. And yes, a date that I could actually go on in the real world if I had a movie set at my disposal.
I meant more the conversation and how they're interacting with each other. That seems like things from my life. While so many what's supposed to be romantic scenes seem like two people who have never talked to people before. You know, they don't, it doesn't ring true a lot of the time. And this one is like, they're just people chatting.
Yeah. I do want to know in what condition that pizza was brought from New York.
Yeah, it couldn't have been there that fast.
I was assuming
But pizza reheats well.
it does, but I was also assuming that maybe they like built it in New York and baked it in Colorado.
A little later on, when the lead actress in the movie is having trouble with something, and the costume designer has that speech about linking her performance to the loss of her father. Like, two trains of thought. At first I was like, well, this is a little bit clunky, but again, everything in this is so much more forgivable because of what the Hallmark bar usually is. I started to kind of like it more because the psychology of her not liking Christmas because of this, although that's not even really heavy that she hates Christmas, but it just makes it an emotional time for her. It didn't seem very tacked on.
No, that's like a normal human reaction
Yeah.
that she's having there.
And we get some insight into her character without it being and I get that it is kind of a dramatic monologue out of nowhere, but so much less so than I've come to expect from a movie like this.
Because I feel like a movie like another movie would be like, she's the town Grinch. Why is she the town Grinch? Nobody knows. And then the whole movie would be unpacking why she's like such a Grinch. And you'd find out at the end, like, oh, I didn't make it home in time.
My father was impaled by Blitzen.
Yeah, for my dad died. So I liked that this was a like character problem that would happen for real. And it was kind of sad.
And that all of the people there took that in and learned something about themselves and about her.
Yeah.
Some decent writing right there.
Woo.
You know what else I started to like after a while? Because my first time I was like, so the costume designer is on stage and is talking for a half hour? But then they kept going back to it. I kind of thought the framing story was effective. It was effective in pushing the plot along because this is an hour and 20 or something. It's a short movie.
Yeah, it was 125, I think.
So by having this framing story, you can just have someone say like, hey, how did this happen? And then they answer it, right? So we don't have to just jump into a scene where you're like, wait, why are we jumping over here now? It's an answer to a question and we can kind of get to the heart of the story that we, the audience of this movie, want to see.
Yeah.
Remember those two things on phones that were poorly done?
Yes.
Where it's just a message of, you have job. When can you start?
Yes. It was like, wow, that's a real professional email.
And then he accepts this job because a lot of his character is wrapped up in what could have been if he had chosen to be a little riskier and take more serious acting roles. And now he has a second opportunity to do this. So he's taking it. And the day after he says yes to this movie, just the internet is all about like, how can this good guy play a bad guy? This is really going to affect his
No one's going to believe it.
And that's a weird... He's a Sparkle Plus actor.
Yeah, he's not...
And that's... but either way, that was silly. But again, if that's the worst thing in the movie, not so bad.
Yeah, exactly. My favorite thing is next, which is there's a fire in the old barn where they're shooting.
Oh, yeah.
The vintage clock shop, the Gold Rush Museum, and the old bottle factory are all booked. What are we going to do?
Lines like that made me wonder if they are kind of poking fun at Hallmark movies.
I kind of feel like they are.
But it wasn't so much like the town square gazebo, the Christmas tree farm, and Santa's workshop.
Yeah.
But it's still, it's pretty close.
It felt like the writer was like, well, we gotta like do a nod to like how shticky other Hallmark movies are. And so that he's like, we'll do one line. And here it is.
It made me think that those were locations in the last 3 movies that this writer had written.
Yeah.
Because they write, I know the actors and directors often are, but I think this writer, I don't know who it is, but chances are this writer's written a bunch of Hallmark Christmas movies.
His name is Larry Goldstein, and he has written Friends and Family Christmas, Lights Camera Christmas, Forever Christmas, Royally Ever After, Angel of Christmas, My Boyfriend's Dogs, Hitched for the holidays. So yeah, he basically just does Hallmark movies.
And now I'm more willing to give those ones
I know.
a chance.
So that's why I
Because
looked
this
it
is a
up, because
fine
I
one.
was like, well, this guy wrote a decent movie. Let's look at the rest of his movies.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we'll find some more that we like. But yeah, I was kind of waiting for like a funny town locations listing moment, because there usually is one.
Yeah.
And we both caught it when we were just watching it just now, and I had to rewind because I needed to know all the locations for that specific line, because it was so funny.
I'll have to incorporate that into my movie. Oh, when we sat down, we said during this podcast, in the back of your mind, write a Hallmark movie and we'll pitch them at the end.
Okay, I'm ready.
So
I can do
let's
it.
see. Okay.
Yeah, so that was like one of my favorite moments of the movie, just because it was so ridiculous. And there's no mention of these other places ever at any other point in this movie. They're just like, here's some random Hallmark movie locations. So Kerry gets the job in that really unbelievable email message from an employer offering a job. And then we find out that she turned it down to go to London with Brad, and then she finds out that Brad quit the movie. And I feel like they needed to have one more conversation here. It felt like they both
Don't turn it down until you talk to
it felt like at the end of their previous conversations, when they talked about both of their job opportunities, that they were like, no, we're going to go like do something for each of our careers separately. That's kind of how I felt like they left it. And then all of a sudden she's quitting her job so that she can go to London. It felt very like disjointed.
Absolutely. Like in the real world, they would have had another conversation. And
not just going to quit my job and decide I'm moving to be with you.
But for a romantic comedy, it is a conflict that is actually rooted in these characters' wishes and not just a mishearing or a misunderstanding, which is the laziest way of doing it. And then the more I think about it, the more I can see a little bit of maybe she was also choosing movies as a career for herself, because
True.
she does then go into that and talk about how she does enjoy it, and how she didn't know what her dream was until it happened.
Yeah.
So maybe there is a little bit of that, so we can give her a little more credit, not that she's just following a movie star around. It is perhaps some of her own agency coming through too.
True. I did think it was funny when she's like confronts him, and then they both like walk away mad, and she's really upset, and she's like, never mind, I'm staying here and not doing anything different with my life.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we could have like done something else with your life. Like, nope, I'm staying, paying off the debt to the store, and I'm not going to work in fashion. It's just very funny that she just like shuts herself down.
And then we finally do get to the present, where we get the makeup scene.
Yeah. Kerry and Brad are talking, and then they break up, and everything in this entire scene is so abrupt in the delivery of the lines that if they had been like shouting the lines, it would have made a lot more sense, because everything has like such a final exclamation point on it. It kind of seems like they're like quiet shouting at each other. And
the turnaways and coming back together and going apart and coming back.
It was so funny because like he walks away, and then she turns away, and then he's right behind her again.
Yeah, that was fun.
I'm like, at least show him like walking up. I would be so startled if I had assumed that someone had walked away, even if it was like the big romantic moment. I'd be like, oh, why are you so close? Like, it's very startling. But then they kiss, and they are gonna live happily ever after doing movies, I assume.
I assume, because he can also just bring his own costumer.
Yeah, that's what people who only do Christmas movies get to do.
Maybe. Yeah, the last scene I have in my notes, clunky but fine.
Clunky but fine, yeah.
And at least rooted in some good ideas.
Yeah.
And then she does the wink to the camera,
The
which I did
signature
think
wink.
was funny, because there's a callback to what he does in his
That was
movies.
his signature move.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did like that, and I just liked that they incorporated that wink, because it was just funny. It was also another nod to like how cheesy these movies can be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So what are your final thoughts on Lights, Camera, Christmas?
I agree with you. I think it is one of the better ones for sure. and I think it's worth watching. And generally, we don't watch Christmas movies more than once. Like these kind of Hallmark movies, because there's not enough to really sustain a second viewing.
No.
This one, we had watched when we were at your sister's house in Calgary and both enjoyed. And then I was like, I wonder if we could do this for the podcast and watch it again. And I was a little worried that it wasn't going to hold up, that it was just going to be like real tired and kind of dead the
Perhaps
second
better.
watching. But I actually think I really enjoyed it the second time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'd say if you're looking for something that's got a little bit more substance to it and not quite as wacky, check it out.
As a movie, I would give it, I don't know, 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10.
I think I'd give it like a 6.
As a Hallmark movie, this is a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
This is the best made-for-TV romantic comedy around.
I agree.
Not that it's doing anything terribly new and novel or like breaking the genre. It's just making the right simple choices on how a movie like this can be effective.
Mm-hmm.
It's a peaceful watch.
Yeah.
It's not conflict ridden, especially unnecessary conflict. And the performances are good. The directing and writing is all very solid. And in the end, it's just likable people doing things at Christmas, which is probably what the market wants.
Yeah.
I don't understand why it's so difficult to get here,
Yeah.
but this movie does it. So if you are the type of person who wants to be like, I just want to put on a Christmas movie that's just nice. I don't want to think about it. I don't want anything too challenging.
Mm-hmm.
This is a good one for that. I don't think I will ever watch it again, but I do think when you get me to watch more Hallmark Christmas movies, because I know you will, this is going to be the bar now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to see if I can track down some more of this writer's movies because...
Or if the writer and a director have worked together.
Yeah.
Which they probably have.
Probably. It kind of seems like they might be a pair. But yeah, so check it out. Lights, Camera, Christmas from 2022. And I'm sure it's playing again on the Hallmark channel at some point this season.
Yeah, go watch it.
It's not even December yet.
Oh, but when this comes out, I might be. Actually, I don't even know what the date is. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. It may or may not be December.
We're in full Christmas anyways.
We are.
All right, so this is a quality Hallmark movie.
Yes.
You get a pitch meeting with Jennifer Hallmark, the CEO of Hallmark Movies.
Yes.
And what's your pitch for a movie?
My pitch for a movie is we open on a small town in middle America in the mountains.
Colorado.
Sure. Yeah, Colorado. And the town of Christmasington is in crisis because their maple syrup food truck that does the maple syrup on snow they're running out of maple syrup trees. The trees are drying up and the town is in crisis because this is their one source of income.
Wait, is the maple syrup there?
Yes.
I thought the maple syrup truck couldn't deliver the maple syrup.
No. It's like a food truck. So you go and you get your
Okay,
maple syrup on snow on a stick
And then I think you had to move it to the east.
Oh, okay. It's in Maine. Is that where trees are? You know what? I don't think the makers of Hallmark movie put this much thought into it anyway. So, Maine. And then the big city lumber developer comes in and says, I want to cut down all your maple trees. And the developer falls in love with the owner of the maple syrup truck and decides that he's going to quit his big city lumber job and move to Maine/Colorado.
Are there big city lumber jobs?
I don't know.
I feel like most big cities, not a lot of lumber.
Yeah, you're right.
But I get you.
Maybe he works for a construction company that sources lumber,
Yes.
needs lumber for a job.
He only builds sky rises made out of maple.
Maple.
They're 100% maple sky rises.
Yeah. And it's
He works for Maple Sky Construction.
Yeah, that's probably what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's my movie.
I'd watch that.
Yeah, and she somehow has about 300 coats.
Yep.
And he only wears business suits for the first 3/4 of the movie, and then she gives him knit woolen of some sort.
Nice.
And he becomes a laid back small town guy.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Wear some plaid.
Wear some plaid. What about you? What's your pitch?
So we have 1998 Meg Ryan. She's my lead.
Okay.
She works for Hallmark. She is a movie producer, and we say Hallmark.
Right.
So she is going to your same town, Christmasington, Maine.
Christmasington, Maine, yeah.
Yeah, so she is going there because she's making another Hallmark movie.
Oh, yeah.
And she's like, oh man, this time they're making us actually film it around Christmas. Usually we just do these in September in Canada, but man, well, we're doing this now. And she doesn't like Christmas, but she doesn't hate Christmas. She sees Christmas as it's profit.
It's money time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She wants to get out of Hallmark. Oh no, but they couldn't say that because it is a Hallmark movie, so maybe we'll scrap that part. And she is engaged to the lead, the Captain Christmas of this world. What was it, Mr. Christmas?
Mr. Christmas, I think.
Whatever they called him. She's engaged to that guy. Maybe it's played by this guy. And it doesn't seem like a particularly loving relationship, but they're going to do this movie. So they're on set, and she's like, oh, there's not enough Christmas trees here. Where's the Christmas tree guy? And the PA goes like, oh, it's that guy over there. And he's, whatever the good Quaid is. There's Randy and Dennis. One of them's like crazy, and one of them's...
Dennis?
Sure.
Okay. It's Dennis.
But I don't know if they're not person-wise. They might both be crazy, or might be good as people. I don't know. But one of them is like your... Arrow shirt model, kind of handsome. So him at the same time. They might have been in movies together. Maybe that's why I'm thinking of it. Were they married? I don't know. For some reason, I put the two of them together. And so then it's this guy.
They were married.
Oh, really?
Yeah. In 1991 to 2001.
Okay, well, that's why it's in my head of in 1998, they'd be a good fit.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's 1998, so they're working together.
Okay.
And it's him. And she's like, we need more Christmas trees in here. He's like, oh, yeah, okay, I can. He's a local guy. He works at the Christmas tree farm. We get a little backstory of him in later scenes. He's took over this farm. It was his wife's, and it was in her family.
Oh.
She died from a terrible lack of holiday cheer. I don't know why. She's dead, though. He has a daughter.
Okay.
She's precocious and is wise beyond her years because they always are. And she has some comedic relief throughout.
Right.
All of this I'm making up as we go.
Okay,
and so
great.
far, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
I'd watch it.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't. And he sets up the Christmas trees for her. And she's like, okay, get out of this scene. Get out of my scene. Now, Mr. Christmas will chop this tree. And he's like, I don't know how to fucking chop a tree. And they're like, hey, Christmas tree guy, get in here. How do you chop this tree? And he's like, oh, okay. You just go like this. And then she's like, yeah, that's good. You know what? Let's just use him. And they get like the close-ups of him chopping and then the wide shots of Mr. Christmas. And she's like, yeah, that's pretty good. Stick around. We might just have more work for you. And then they're going through making this very formulaic Hallmark movie. Mm-hmm. And anytime something comes up where this guy, the Christmas actor, he's like, oh, I can't do that. That's not something real guys do. And Quaid is there to say like, oh, no, I can do that. So he's always stepping in to like do the thing.
So he's getting in the way.
No, he's proving his value of, yeah, I'm the actual guy.
Right.
You have a movie about this small town Christmas tree farm guy who's all these perfect things. Quaid is actually him.
Right.
So they're going to be put in some places together. They're probably going to have to get trapped in a building or something like that. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But they are going to have to start spending more and more time together. Meg Ryan, because she just wants to get her movie done and get out of town. And this guy, because he's like, oh, I'm just doing my best and selling my Christmas trees to give my daughter a good Christmas.
Is there going to be a cute, he teaches her how to chop down a tree scene?
Well, yeah, because first he's going to have to teach the fiance, Mr. Christmas, these things. And then in that, she sees something in him. And then we start getting to more scenes where there's like a romantic thing. Mm-hmm. And she'll be like, hey, you're going to be like my small town consultant. You're my Christmas charm consultant. What would you do here? And then he says like very charming things and things that harken back to maybe her own childhood, things that remind her of how she grew up and before she was just about money and what Christmas used to mean to her. And he's just saying it because this is the life he lives. He's not like putting on a show.
Right.
But meanwhile, it's like kind of a buddy thing with Mr. Christmas, the actor. He keeps going like, oh, this guy's good. So he's encouraging Quaid to come along more because he's finding him very useful. Little does he know that once set closes, Meg Ryan and Quaid are like, there's something brewing there. I still have to figure out how we get the turn of like when they actually kiss and all of that sort of things. But that's my pitch. And then we can use it to also, it keeps poking fun at the formulas and how stupid they are, because in the movie, they would do it. And then Quaid would have to be like, oh, well, actually, and kind of have just a more heartfelt meaning behind things. And then they fall in love, and she gives up her job that she never really liked anyway, and was just in it for the money, because she discovers, like, you know what? I have everything I need here on my Christmas tree farm.
That's nice. Coming to theaters in 1996.
Yes.
Go back in time.
All right. Well, what do we do next?
Next, we will have some more Christmas things of the week, and then Indy will be letting us know what we're watching for our big watch the next week. Christmas big watch.
All Christmas, all the time.
That's this month.
Or a holiday. I might do a Hanukkah movie.
Okay.
There's not many good Hanukkah movies. Someone go make some good ones, or suggest some to me.
Yeah, maybe
I
we're
haven't
missing
seen
them.
many, and the ones I had seen, nothing too special.
Okay.
So
Hanukkah
let me
movies.
know. Kwanzaa movies, Hanukkah movies. New Year's actually doesn't have very many good movies.
Just New Year's Eve.
Although I think Fruitvale Station takes place on New Year's Eve, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's just sad.
Yeah, I don't think that counts as
Maybe that should be a rebroadcast for Christmas.
for New Year's.
Maybe not, but that was an episode. Go check that out. And come back here next week when we do more holiday stuff.
Things and stuff.
Yeah, I'm done pitching.
Okay. See you next week, everyone.
Goodbye.
Ho, ho, ho.